Two crises are apparently not enough for this president. The president on Saturday fired a top federal prosecutor, a prosecutor known to be investigating people close to the president, perhaps even the president himself.
That's all up to the Attorney General. Attorney General Barr is working on that. That's his department, not my department. But we have a very capable Attorney General, so that's really up to him. I'm not involved.
That from the president is simply not truthful. The president's own aides tell us he signed off on the firing. It was Jeffrey Berman who put longtime Trump attorney and fixer Michael Cohen behind bars. And his Southern District of New York prosecutors are known to be pursuing questions about the Trump family business and about the dealings of Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani and several Giuliani associates. Democrats in Congress now promise immediate scrutiny. The House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says this firing, quote, cannot be explained by cause, and instead suggests base and improper motives. For the president to fire Berman and for the attorney general to support such a move is beyond extraordinary. And the timing makes it all the more remarkable and provocative. 19 weeks before the election, with the president's poll numbers sagging, and the country already under severe stress because of the stubborn coronavirus pandemic and the racial reckoning triggered by the death of George Floyd. With us this Sunday to share their reporting and their insights, Maggie Haberman of the New York Times, CNN legal analyst Jennifer Rogers, a former Southern District of New York prosecutor, and the presidential historian Douglas Brinkley. Maggie, we've had this conversation many times, but this is a third rail, and the president is not only touching it, he's grabbing it with two hands, firing a prosecutor known to be looking at people close to the president.
John, you know this better than anyone. The silence from Republicans in Congress right now says a lot about him grabbing that third and just how dangerous it is. The president has been talking for a long time to a small group of advisors, not, everybody who walks into the Oval Office, about his dissatisfaction with Jeffrey Berman. Jeffrey Berman led the prosecution into Michael Cohen. His office was involved in the searches of Michael Cohen's apartment and hotel room and office back in April 2018. And since then, the president has been frustrated with him. He wanted Berman to unrecuse in that case and be willing to take it back over. That didn't happen. But the timing still remains something of a mystery. Also, why the president would yesterday deny that he had something to do with this when everybody knows that he has something to do with this, and he has been very candid with a lot of advisors about it. Whether he faces political blowback or whether the country has become numb to him making these kinds of moves, we're going to find out. But again, the silence from Republicans is notable.
And Jennifer, you once worked in this office, and your take is that, number one, it's extraordinary and it shouldn't happen, but number two, that the way it played out, the attorney general essentially tried to fire Mr. Berman on Friday, asked him to resign. Mr. Berman said, no, I'm not going anywhere. So then they had to go back to the president and get a letter to sign off on an actual presidential firing to force him out. Instead of getting the person they wanted in charge, now they get Berman's deputy in charge. You think they've bungled this in the way that makes it more complicated?
I do, John. I think it was badly mishandled. I mean, all the back and forth, the dramatic Friday night statement from Jeff Berman indicating that Bill Barr lied to the American public about what had happened. Now not only do they end up with Audrey Strauss, who's been supervising many of these cases anyway, but they've caused a lot of us to think, hey, wait a minute, what are they so afraid of? Let's think about what's going on at Southern District and what might be happening in the next few months to cause everyone to be concerned about it at the White House. And maybe even more importantly, I think that they've energized the prosecutors at the Southern District, because if I was there right now, one of the things I'd be doing in the upcoming weeks is booking the grand jury, maybe thinking about unsealing some things, doing everything I could to ensure the security of the work that's going on there and make sure it's free from partisan influence. So I think that they've actually likely made happen exactly what they did not want to have happen, which is that we're likely to learn more this summer about what's been going on behind closed doors up till now at the Southern District.
And I want to come back to some of the possible specifics in a moment, but Doug Brinkley, help me with the moment. And we can show a headline to our viewers. It's the New York Times, October 1973. This is not exactly Richard Nixon firing Archibald Cox, but it is a big deal, a president intervening with a prosecutor, using his powers, using presidential powers to intervene with a prosecutor that he simply does not like. Put this in context for us.
Well, absolutely rings the Richard Nixon bell of cover-up. Nixon had his famous Saturday Night Massacre, as you say, in October 1973. That was a term coined by Art Buchwald, the humorist, and David Broder made popular, but it was just a string of events of Nixon in cover-up mode. He had his Attorney General Elliot Richardson fire wanted him to have Nixon did fire Archibald McCox, the special prosecutor. Richardson said no, he resigned. Then Nixon had the Deputy Attorney General William Ruckelshaus fire Cox. Ruckelshaus refused. Eventually, Robert Bork, got in, the third person at Justice, and did fire Cox, but they had to put in Leon Jaworski as the special prosecutor. In the last 10 days after that Saturday Night Massacre, you started having the hearings on Watergate, and that's when the famous Nixon tapes were revealed, and it was the beginning of the end of Richard Nixon. A president would only do what Nixon did and what Donald Trump's doing now as if they were deeply fearful about what was going to come out of that New York district attorney, what knowledge they had, and he bungled it. I think he was full of hubris over Tulsa. He really believed he was going to have these two giant rallies, packed people. It was going to be a love fest. Instead, it was a very tepid rally, didn't really accomplish very much for him, and now he's stuck with this headline, which is going to fester between now and November, and if he got reelected, may lead to a second impeachment if the Democrats continue to hold Congress.
And Maggie, we need to be careful because there's a lot we don't know, but we now do know Mr. Berman, who's leaving office now, he's free to testify if Democrats call him up on Capitol Hill. We know that his trusted deputy will be in charge because of the way Bill Barr tried to handle this over the weekend, it not working out that way. And we do know a few things about it. This is the office that put Michael Cohen behind bars. It's the office that put former Congressman Chris Collins, a key Trump ally, in jail. He's investigating right now. Giuliani associates Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman have already been charged, and there's more investigations there. The Trump Inaugural Committee, Jeffrey Epstein's associate, Deutsche Bank, which has a lot of dealings with the Trump family business. There are a lot of landmines here. The question is, what was it that provoked the president to decide, I'm going to force this guy out?
We don't know yet, John, and I'm really loath to speculate, as you note, on things that are still evolving. This is a pretty small group of people who were involved in this decision in the first place. To your point, the way this was done was so botched that Jeffrey Berman was able to say, no, I'm not leaving, and then essentially make sure that the person he wanted to leave the office is still leading the office, which you saw Lindsey Graham sign off on last night after Lindsey Graham, head of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, was not particularly happy with how things had gone the previous day. I think we will learn a lot more in the coming days. The level of alarm by the president and some of his advisors yesterday at how much blowback they were getting is shocking, considering how many times this president has walked up to a third rail. But there was an enormous amount of surprise at how poorly this went. And I will say one thing, John, this is a real reminder that whatever skills that Bill Barr's defenders and admirers believe he just has an enormous blind spot when it comes to politics and will be seen, that he did not try harder to say to the president, this is going to end poorly, that he did not say to the president, this is not a prosecutor with whom I can bargain with to get him to take a different job, is on him.
It is on him. That's a great point to make. And